Welcome to NIPT's Decisions on the Go, using AI for over a decade to help you listen to New York State Court of Appeals decisions on the go. After the podcast, visit www.nipt.com/law to read the full decision.
People v. Warren Burgess, decided April 23, 2026. Holligan, J. After being charged with a number of weapons-related offenses, including 2 felonies, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single misdemeanor count of criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree. The appellate term order upholding his conviction must be reversed. We agree with the defendant that under the standard applied to a misdemeanor information, the misdemeanor charge to which he pleaded guilty was insufficient. As discussed below, we therefore reverse the order of the appellate term, vacate the defendant's guilty plea, and remit for further proceedings on the accusatory instrument. In July 2019, defendant Warren Burgess was charged by felony complaint in criminal court with criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree, Penal Law Section 265.02, 3. Felony, criminal possession of a firearm, and criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree. The factual portion of the felony complaint alleged in relevant part, deponent states that at the above time and place, deponent observed defendant sitting in the front seat of a black 2014 Honda Accord to have in his custody and control, in the trunk of said vehicle, one high-point .40 caliber firearm. Deponent further states that deponent observed said firearm to be defaced, in that the serial number of said firearm was scratched off and illegible. The complaint included no allegations about whether the recovered firearm was operable. At arraignment, the people stated that while there had not yet been grand jury action, the parties had agreed to a pre-indictment plea bargain whereby the defendant would plead guilty to the misdemeanor count in satisfaction of all charges in exchange for a sentence of 2 years of probation. With the people's consent, criminal court purported to dismiss the 2 felony counts by crossing them off the felony complaint. The court did not adhere to the procedure set forth in CPL 180.5 for reducing felony charges. The people did not file a superseding accusatory instrument, and the defendant did not waive prosecution by information. He nonetheless pleaded guilty to the remaining misdemeanor count, and the court later imposed the bargained-for sentence. The defendant subsequently appealed the judgment of conviction, arguing that the felony complaint was jurisdictionally defective as to the count to which he pleaded due to the absence of any allegation that the firearm was operable. The appellate term affirmed. The court noted that, as the people conceded, the misdemeanor charge to which defendant pleaded guilty was jurisdictionally defective due to the absence of any factual allegations indicating that the firearm was operable, citing People v. Longshore. But because the only relief which the defendant requested was dismissal of the accusatory instrument rather than vacatur of the plea and remand on the remaining charges, and because he expressly requested an affirmance if the court did not grant a dismissal, the appellate term affirmed the judgment. The appellate term further reasoned that, in view of the serious nature of the other charges contained in the felony complaint, a judge of this court granted the defendant leave to appeal. Our precedents confirm that a valid and sufficient accusatory instrument is a non-waivable jurisdictional prerequisite to a criminal prosecution. People v. Afilal, quoting People v. Case. As a consequence, a challenge to the jurisdictional sufficiency of an accusatory instrument is among the few that survive a guilty plea. The standard for whether a flaw in an accusatory instrument is jurisdictional is whether the instrument failed to give the defendant sufficient notice of the charged crime to satisfy the demands of due process and double jeopardy. People v. Hill, quoting People v. Drayden. Setting aside the question of whether the felony complaint was properly converted to another accusatory instrument and treating what remained as a misdemeanor information for the sole purpose of evaluating the instrument's sufficiency, we agree that as such, it was facially insufficient. To be jurisdictionally valid, an information must not only set forth facts that establish reasonable cause to believe that the defendant committed the charged offense, but also satisfy the prima facie case requirement by setting forth allegations which, if true, establish every element of the offense charged and the defendant's commission thereof. People v. Smalls. See also CPL 100.40(1)(c), providing that an information is sufficient when it establishes every element of the offense charged. As we have previously held, the operability of a firearm is an element of criminal possession of a weapon in the fourth degree. See Longshore, People v. Saunders, People v. Cavines. Accordingly, operability must be alleged in a misdemeanor information even though it is not explicitly set forth as an element in the statute. We agree with the defendant that the instrument to which he pleaded guilty did not meet the prima facie case requirement because it lacked any allegations of operability. As such, it was jurisdictionally defective and could not serve as the basis for his plea. Consequently, the case should be restored to its pre-pleading status, CPL 470.55. See also People v. Thiam. The proper corrective remedy, plainly afforded by CPL 470.5, is a remittal to the trial court for further proceedings on the accusatory instrument. The record reflects that the felony counts were dismissed when the parties informed the court of their agreed-upon disposition, and thus the purported dismissal is best understood as an integral component of the defendant's plea. The pre-pleading posture therefore restores the felony complaint. The defendant fails to identify a sufficient basis for dismissal of the original pre-pleading felony complaint, and we therefore remit for further proceedings. Accordingly, the order of the appellate term should be reversed, the defendant's guilty plea vacated, and the case remitted to Criminal Court of the City of New York for further proceedings on the accusatory instrument. Order reversed. Defendant's guilty plea vacated and case remitted to Criminal Court of the City of New York, Bronx County, for further proceedings on the accusatory instrument. Opinion by Judge Holligan. Judges Garcia, Singas, Canataro, and Troutman concur. Judge Rivera dissents in an opinion, in which Chief Judge Wilson concurs. Decided April 23, 2026.
Welcome to NYPT's Decisions on the Go, using AI for over a decade to help you listen to New York State Court of Appeals decisions on the go. After the podcast, visit www.nypt.com/law to read the full decision.